right, everyone. We are super excited that we have Dr. Wayne Russell, who is from Dallas, Texas, but currently lives and works as a school principal in Shanghai, China. He is the principal of Transformation Academy, which is a 6 through 12 school. And he also is a part of what they call teaching couples. So his wife also teaches over in Shanghai, China as well. So we're super excited that he has joined us on the My K12 Career Show to just kind of share his story, his journey, all that's going on in his life and his K-12 career. So Dr. Russell, thank you so much for coming on the show. Can you please share with our viewers what's going on in your life and in your K-12 career right now?
Hi, Dr. Williams. It's great that you have the show. I think you're doing some good work getting different voices out around the world.
Thank you.
Yeah, at the moment, we're like you said, we're in Shanghai and we've just kind of come out of the pandemic. So it's a much better environment right now. We can move around freely. We don't have to take COVID tests every day. We can travel to different cities without getting permission. So it's a much better time in China. It's kind of like how it was back 3 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah. Good place.
That's good. Now, I can remember, even when I would see videos and whatnot of China, that people wore masks over there anyway, right? That was more for the smog and things of that nature, right? So
I remember, back in 2013 when we were in Shanghai, the pollution levels, the AQI was over 500. So we had to wear N95 masks back then. The kids, they were little, like 5 and 3 years old. Yeah. They had their N95s on. So the mask thing wasn't quite a big deal. And then when people are sick or have a cough or a cold, they would put the mask on themselves too. So yeah, that was normal, I guess.
But we definitely had a learning curve here in the United States and in the world for that matter, because I heard that, in China, like there were a lot of restrictions. Can you kind of share what that was like during the pandemic?
Yeah, so at the beginning, like in March 2020, around then, China closed its borders. So at that point, it was difficult to get in and out. So a lot of foreign teachers were stuck in China or had to make that hard decision to leave China during the pandemic because it was just very restrictive in terms of seeing family and, that kind of stuff. So at that point, from like March 2020 until probably March 22, so for 2 years, coming in and out of China was difficult, but moving around China was fun. Like could, and honestly, people did wear masks, but masks sometimes weren't worn because there were no cases really. I mean, there were very few. And so it was fine. But then I guess as Omicron got very contagious, then it started spreading in March 2022, big time in Shanghai, and it had to lock down and everything. Wow. So after the lockdown, after 2.5-month lockdown, where we couldn't leave. At one point, actually, we had a case in our building where we couldn't leave our actual apartment for 2 weeks. So we were stuck inside. Like that was pretty rough. But the rest of the time, we couldn't even go into the streets and go to like the convenience store, for example. We couldn't do that. But then, after that lockdown ended, there was a lot more restrictions in terms of, okay, now you need to, in order to control the virus, we need to test you every day, especially if you work in a school or a hospital or a nursing home kind of thing. And then, when you test, you get the code right. And then you have to scan that code when you go into any buildings or restaurants and that kind of stuff. Wow. But I guess you get used to all these things. So we got used to it pretty quickly, getting tested every day. And then around beginning of December, in other cities like Guangdong or Guangzhou in Guangdong and where else? Maybe it was Chengdu or Chongqing. Anyway, some other cities were battling. And I think everybody just realized, we can't lock down like Shanghai. That was terrible. People hated it. So then within the space of a few days, restrictions just kept falling. Wow. And then the virus started spreading. And so everybody that I know got the virus. Wow. And I think within a month, like a month or two, maybe, or 6 weeks, up to about 80% of the Chinese population got infected. And China is 1.4 billion. That's what I was going to say. 80% of that is, I think that's over 1 billion people in like 6 weeks. So you can imagine, like that was it's like a wildfire, just like rushing through. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So how did that affect your school that you were working at?
Yeah. During the whole pandemic, we had a few times where we had to have online learning for 2 months, one time, 3 months, one time, 1 month, another time. So that definitely affected that. But yeah, once, especially in December, yeah, my teachers just kept falling like flies. And then, I mean, within a few days, 90% of my team was at home. And it was me and this one other teacher that were kind of holding down the fort and making sure that, because then also kids were also going home too, but then some kids were staying at school. So you had this, I don't know, I don't want to call it hybrid, but it's just like the teacher was on the smart board with 5 kids in front of them and 15 kids at home. And, how do you do that? It was just, and then making sure that that's all connected. Yeah, we were running around like crazy.
Yeah.
But luckily, at some point, like the Education Bureau decided, we have to just close the schools. We can't run the schools on such a small staff. So then we went online for the last bit. And hopefully that's the last of online.
Yeah.
And now we're pretty free. We traveled a bunch around China. We went on the green skin trains, which are overnight trains with either hard sleepers and soft sleepers. We went around China with that. And now this summer we're going to travel overseas again, which is, it's all going to be nice.
Are y'all coming back to the US or y'all?
Not this time. Yeah. So we usually go between 3 places, I guess, China and then Dallas, Texas. And then my parents are in a city called East London, South Africa.
Oh, nice.
So we'll go back, I think, to see them. Our kids haven't seen the grandparents for 3.5 years. So, we'll do that. And then probably maybe Chinese New Year next year, we'll go to Texas. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. So you're originally from South Africa?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in South Africa, and then graduated high school. Didn't really want to study my tertiary in South Africa. So looked overseas, found a good place in Dallas, Texas, and then went there. Yeah.
So you went to Dallas, Texas. You didn't know anybody in Dallas, Texas?
I knew of one person.
Wow.
I hadn't met her, but I met her parents. So yeah, but it was good because there were other South Africans in that college.
Sure. Yeah.
So the first day I arrived there, it was like a big welcome, and I quickly made friends. It was, and the school I went to is I think there were over 300 international students, and then from 50 different countries. So that's quickly awesome. And then I had American roommates. I mean, that's
cool.
It was a very smooth transition to Dallas. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So, I mean, obviously being from South Africa, coming to America for college, it wasn't an issue for you to move to another country, which is China, to actually work as a teacher. But, there's people that are watching us right now that are saying, wow, Dr. Russell is in China. His wife is over there. They're teaching. I've been an international principal myself, like you. What would you say to people that are watching us right now that are saying, man, I wouldn't mind trying that? What advice would you give them?
I would say be a risk taker and just try it. I mean, you're not going to sign a 10-year contract. You're going to sign a 2-year contract.
Sure.
So, it's, yes, you're going to have culture shock for sure.
Yeah.
But it's, you'll go through the stages and then you'll find out, okay, it's all fine. And you can probably, save more money. You can travel more. You can do a lot of things that you maybe, are not used to.
Sure.
You'll meet a lot of people and you'll build a community pretty quickly. So unless you go to a remote town or village or little city in China, for example, most places are pretty, good bunch of foreigners. So you'll find one of our favorite restaurants here is Pistolero, which is a Mexican restaurant.
Oh, wow.
You'll find pretty much what you want, you'll find, and then you'll discover a lot of new things.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, I know I was in the Middle East, and I remember when we traveled to Bangkok, Thailand, it was obvious that like when we're in the city, when we're in Bangkok, like it was clear people had seen Black people before. Like it wasn't a big surprise to them. But I can remember like when we would take the train out and it was a little more rural and people were like, wow. Like you knew they had seen Black people before, but maybe not in person, right? Like maybe they had seen, Black people on TV or whatever, but they were really cool, very nice. I mean, it was really a good experience and I just loved it. I loved
Yeah.
living abroad. I love working abroad. And you actually brought up two things that I want to kind of talk about. Like,
Mm.
I know when we moved abroad, one of the reasons, two of the reasons we moved abroad was first and foremost, we wanted to save some money, right? And secondly, we wanted to be able to travel. And the great thing about where we moved in the Middle East, like we were literally 6 hours by flight to basically
Mhm.
three different continents, right? So to
Mhm.
me, I just thought that was amazing. And
Mhm.
just in those 2 short years, we went to over 12 countries. And, you know,
Mhm.
my kids were very young at the time and they just had so many experiences that they otherwise wouldn't have had. What were your reasons, you and your wife's reasons for moving abroad, working abroad? And do some of the
Yeah.
reasons that I said, do they resonate with you?
Yeah, for sure. I think when I was a single guy and I moved abroad, I don't know if I was very motivated to like save and all. I didn't have any, thankfully, I didn't have college debt and all that. So I was just going over for very much the experience, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
And that definitely changes when you get married, right? So when
Sure.
we went over in 2012 or came back over here in 2012, the big motivator was to pay off some of, I'm not going to, I don't want to blame my wife, but she had some college debt. Okay? So we wanted to just take care of that. So
Sure.
within our first year living in Shanghai, we were able to totally pay off her student loan, I think by March of that school
Wow.
year. So it was a big celebration, you know, like going from, I think in when we were in Dallas, we did, I don't know if you've heard of Crown Financial. Yeah. So we went through that, like our church offered this like course, 10-week course, and we went through that and the whole compounding your debt or compound interest, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like we definitely like were very much working on getting our debt down. But then
Yeah.
when we went to China, we still had this big, you know, thorn in the side. So that definitely took care of all that.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was definitely a magical feeling being 100% debt free. So that was that time. And then the next year, we decided we want to actively save up to buy some property.
Okay.
So the next 3 years, we saved like crazy and were able to buy not a huge property, but like a holiday kind of apartment by the
Sure.
beach in Durban, South
Okay.
Africa. And we just paid it cash. So that
Yeah.
was also, you know, you can be much more creative. You don't have to say rely on thinking of taking a home loan or that kind of stuff. You can actually, yeah, you can have some big financial goals and you can actively work to meet them. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, for our viewers that might not know this, how would you explain to them how you were able to do that? Like, I know that you went over there basically up to a little over 100K. It's tax free. You know, the housing is taken care of. In a lot of cases, your children's tuition is taken care of. Is
Yeah.
that the same for you?
Yeah. So in general, this is the expats package or overseas teacher package. Yeah, typically your salary, the school may pay all the tax, so you don't have to worry about that. And then yeah, you don't have to. So when I file taxes in the US each year, there's that what you were talking about, that
Foreign
ceiling where
exclusion. Yeah.
yeah, so exclusion. So then you don't have to pay US taxes. Yeah, you get your housing, you get the school in, you get the health insurance, which honestly, I was in a Texas retirement system health insurance for 4 years in Dallas when I taught and then led over there. And even a family of four, the premium each year was each month was $1,000. I mean, it's it was crazy, right? So
Yeah.
crazy. So now like over here, we have zero money's coming out of our check for health insurance, which is a huge thing. So every month, when I look at the budget, I would say for us, eating out is probably one of the top. Transportation, so you don't have to have a car in Shanghai at least.
Yeah.
So we rely on public transport as much as possible, or like the equivalent to Uber over here. That does obviously cost. It adds up if you're going on an Uber to school and back every day.
Right.
But I think still overall, it's still cheaper than paying the car payment, the insurance, buying the new tires, all that stuff.
Yep.
And honestly, it's less of a headache. I have a car that I use on holiday, and it's parked in the garage somewhere overseas. But I do not at all miss checking the tire pressure, go change the oil, all that stuff. So yeah, your monthly expenses, you can really do well if and you can, instead of going to a Western restaurant and eating nachos, you can go and have some noodles for like 20% of the cost of the nachos. So you can,
Sure.
depending on, yeah. And one thing I would say is coming over to a place like China, be open to trying everything. Like,
Sure.
I think it's really difficult if you are really a fussy eater or fussy, you're going to have a tough time, yeah, because then you're going to blow your money every month because you're going to buy from the foreign grocery stores all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. So it really depends on your mindset and lifestyle. Yeah.
I can absolutely relate to that. Like I remember when we moved over, like we were in the Middle East and I totally fell in love with Lebanese food. And I mean, even to this day, and even though we're back in the US, there's this little Mediterranean and Lebanese restaurant right around the corner, Colombian restaurant. We go there. Like even now, we are very open to different cultures, cuisines. We just felt like it was something that opened up for us when we moved to the Middle East. And like you said, it just made things a lot cheaper because initially I was just like you were talking, like I had to have, my Americanized, diet, and it was costing me through the nose for that, right? Once we truly embraced the language, the culture, customs, the food, it was awesome. And it definitely decreased our cost over there. So yeah, you're so right. I think you have to be open. And I also feel like it's important if somebody is watching us right now that if they're thinking about this, like there's going to be some fear. Like you can't, that's just part of it. But, the reality is that it will change your life in so many ways that are so wonderful. I know we went over and we weren't even in the Middle East near as long as you and your family have been over there. And we were able to do some amazing things financially and came over. We went over there in the red, came back over in the black, and we've just been cooking with gas ever since we've been. And we actually learned some really good savings habits because I think once you get into the American way of doing things, then for lack of a better term, you're just trying to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, no, for sure. Like, yeah, I think that kind of breaks like when you live overseas, if you try to, there's so many Joneses overseas. Like there's so many, like there's foreigners that are making more. There's local citizens that are making more. There's too much. You can't, there's too much diversity, I guess, that you just can't, even in our apartment complex here, there's definitely different varying levels of income. So yeah, you can't really, that mindset, I think, gets broken, I think.
Yeah, and you just focus on your own lane, right? Like this is our lane and this is our goals and this is what we're trying to do. And that's all you focus on. I know that's what we did. And it was really beneficial. So yeah, how about your children? Because like you said, you have children that are over there. And I know that, like you said, it's one thing to go over to a foreign country and you're single, but that mindset 100% changes if you have to also educate your own children. How has that been for someone that might be watching that says, hey, I'm interested, but man, I already have the big unknown about my own self in terms of a job and whatnot, but how would I take care of my children in terms of their own education?
Yeah, I think overall, it doesn't mean it's not a big deal. The school that you work at, so if you're going to come work at a school, as long as they a K-12 or a P-12 school, one of the benefits will be free tuition for them.
Sure.
You may have to buy their uniforms or that kind of thing, but the tuition's all covered. Yeah, and then normally the school you're going to work in is a pretty good education institution, so you don't really have to worry about your child's education. They're going to get a good education. It's going to be rigorous and engaging and all that. And yeah, I just recently hired a teacher or a family that's coming over from Virginia.
Okay.
And his name's Mike and his wife, and they've got 3 kids. They're smaller kids, a baby, and then a newborn, and 2 other toddlers and a preschooler.
Wow.
So they coming over. Yeah, I think the big thing you got to ask the school is about the housing.
Sure.
You want the housing to be good. You want it to be spacious enough for a family. You don't want necessarily 3 kids in 1 bedroom, and you want to make sure that all is good. If that's good, then you've got a good start. And then So like this family, maybe one of the daughters will be in school. So, but as the kids grow older, like as they get to middle school, like our son's going to be middle school next year, our daughter's in grade 7, then I think the stakes get a little bit higher, right? You seen, okay, we need to make sure that they're getting a really good education so that if we move back to the US, they're fine. If we move to Dubai, they're fine. If we move to, anywhere, they're getting what they need. So, but I think that's just and also you can always change schools, right?
Sure.
So if your school is not meeting your needs or your family's needs, you can always look around. There's a lot of international schools. I think there's now over 13,000 around the world. So there's definitely options, and in a place like Shanghai has got actually the most international schools definitely the city in China with the most international schools. So there's a lot of options. So you can stay 2 years, you could renew your contract another year, whatever, just keep going, renew, or you can see if there's any other things around. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So another question I had for you, like the travel. I mean, I know when I think about my time living abroad, like that was one of the highlights. Even now, when I think about my time abroad, I don't even necessarily think about the Middle East. I think about my time in Thailand. I think about my time, India. I think about my time in Greece. Yeah. What's the travel been like for you guys?
So yeah, it's a kind of a thing where you work really hard during the school year. You've got high expectations from the parents. Most of these schools are private schools. Like I remember school, like kindergarten students were paying $40,000 a year. So you work your tail off. But then like during Christmas one year, we went to Boracay in the Philippines and spent a week or two on the beach, or Sanya, which is like the Hawaii of China. We've been there several times. And then we found a nice little resort that's cost effective and not, exorbitant. So yeah, you do, like now for the summer, we're going to be going to South Africa. It definitely will motivate us and get us through this semester for sure. It's like going to be like a huge reward at the end, I guess. Yeah. So it's nice kind of something to look forward to. So yeah, the last 3 years though weren't like that for China. So now it's going back to how it was, where you can go in and out and, look forward to those breaks away.
That's cool. That's really cool. So do you see yourself staying with your family in China for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely think so. If we do move, like we were just in Hong Kong a few weeks ago, we love Hong Kong. I mean, that could be an option too, but I think one of the drawing things that brings us back to China is the language development for our 2 kids. We've seen the power of like a bilingual kid, and by high school, I want them to take the AP Chinese test. Like the exam, so I want them to go to college at least, nail Chinese, fluent in speaking, confident speakers, confident writers. So it's pretty ambitious, but we keep encouraging our kids and we keep having high expectations for the school to kind of help us meet those goals.
That's awesome. So do your children speak fluent Mandarin right now?
I wouldn't say fluent, but they definitely on that road. Our son is very confident in verbal communication and has no fear really. Like when we go out and about, he will be the one that helps us at the restaurants just like figure out things.
That's cool.
Our daughter's strength is the writing the characters, and like her vocabulary is more, but maybe we got to encourage her to use it more.
Sure.
So yeah, both different strengths, but they're both making progress. And I think if they continue, when Livia, our daughter's in high school, I think she will be eligible for that AP test. And just keep, So that's what's keeping us. And that's what kind of brings us back. We could go to Thailand. We could go to Japan. And I think it'll be great experiences. But then,
they lose
But saying that, a lot of Chinese citizens are now taking their kids abroad. So a lot of schools abroad are offering Chinese.
Sure.
If we want to go to Thailand, for example, we would be able to find a school that has a Chinese class every day for kids.
Sure. A dual immersion type program.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And that's such a gift that you would be giving your children, if they can look up at 18 and be totally fluent and literate in Mandarin Chinese, right? Like that's there's more Chinese people on this planet than any other country, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
any
yeah,
other origin. So that's
yeah.
pretty powerful, man. Like that would be really cool. And I can see that you're determined to make sure that happens. So that's good. That's really,
Yeah,
really
we
good.
are for sure. Yeah.
That's really good. I did want to talk a little bit about your buying a house cash. Like it's
Mm.
such a foreign concept in America, right? Like it's
Yes,
literally like a 30-year jail sentence here, right? The
yes,
30-year
yes.
mortgage. And that's something that we have just really resisted. We've been back a little over 3 years and we're saving our money, but we really want to
Mm-hmm.
do something very similar. And my wife is originally from Colombia, South America, and we want to buy a place similar to
Mm,
what you did in your home
mm,
country of
mm,
South
mm, mm.
Africa that we can just pay cash for, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. I would love to do that myself.
So you more about you want to know the how or
Yeah, the
the
how.
how?
Like, I
The
mean,
how.
yeah.
Yeah. So the how, I think when you yes, you could cut your spending in other areas, right? You could be more frugal and then, save by this way. But I think the biggest way is to increase your income. And
Okay.
then, okay, so we were at one school in Shanghai. Okay, so I was an administrator there, vice principal. And then another school asked me to come to them as a teacher. So it
Okay.
was a very difficult decision to go back into the classroom. But when we looked at it as for our family and we did all the numbers, going from a principal to a teacher was an 82% increase in salary and benefits.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
82%.
82%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the school that we were at, that's the school that we paid off my wife's student loan. So we weren't getting nothing there. We were getting
Yeah.
good income there. But we went, so there's different types of schools and different, yeah. So finding a place where you're going to just be able to, instead of saving 20% a year, you now can save 50%,
Yes.
and still travel a bunch.
There you
So
go.
we just and one of the benefits of many schools is they will transfer your paycheck to any bank in the world, right? To any of your own banks.
Okay.
So so every month the finance lady would emails all of us, right? Says, what percentage of your salary do you want to keep in China? What do you want to take to another bank? And so some months I'd say, I need all my Chinese money this month, but then the next month, send it all to South Africa. Next month, send it to Texas. Send it, So
Oh,
we
wow.
we
Okay.
basic, and then we can't really access that money. Once it's in South Africa or in
Yeah.
Texas, it's a little bit difficult. Like you got to go to an ATM, withdraw it. You got to use your credit card and pay some fees. So once it's gone, like how can you not tempted then to spend it? Like, yeah. So I think that really did help.
Out of sight, out of mind, basically.
Yeah, we put it out. Yeah, we put it far away, and we put it into an account that grew pretty aggressively. And then I did Charles Schwab.
Oh, swab. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I do. So actually, yeah, I set it up while we were in Texas, and now and the good thing about them is that you can do wire transfers, like you don't have to pay fees.
Yep.
So my check in Shanghai goes, now I pay some fees from the bank I guess the school's bank in Shanghai will pay some fees, but once it gets to Schwab, there's like, they don't charge, like Bank of America and other banks, like, what's it, $16, $18 to accept the wire. So Schwab put the money in there.
Yeah.
And then I do ETFs, right? Electronically
ETFs,
traded
yeah.
funds. Yep, I do ETFs. And so I've got a few stock ones and a few
Yeah.
bond ones, and I just put the money in there, and that grew nicely. So that helped,
Oh,
obviously. Yeah. So yeah, all these things, they keep adding up. But I think the biggest one is, the out of sight, out of mind, kind of
Yeah.
untouchable, like it's going to be really hard for you to get at that money for
Right.
something else. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Absolutely. So how often do you guys get down to South Africa? I know it's been tough, obviously, the last 3 years.
Yeah, we try once a year. We try
Mhm.
South Africa, once a year Texas. Yeah, so you can still, even though you like saving for a house, right? You can still, if you're in a good international school, you can still, travel. A lot of schools will give you a travel allowance too. So they'll give you one free trip a year, international trip. And if you've got kids, they will most likely give your kids and your spouse also that trip.
Nice. No, that's really good. Really cool. So I might not look it, but I'll be 55 years of age in August. I know there's people that are watching that are in my age group, and they're probably saying, "Oh, I'm too old. They won't accept me. They have an age limit." Like, what is
Mhm.
it like in China? I know, and that's true. Like, I know there are some countries that once you hit 60, for example, get a visa to, maybe
Yeah.
work in their country. So, what is it like in China?
Yeah, China definitely has that. I think it's eased a little recently, but it's still pretty strict. I think, yeah, once you get 60, I think it's 62. Because most schools, they're going to give you a 2-year contract, maybe a 3-year contract. So there's a certain age, like I guess maybe it's 65 or 64, depends on
Mhm.
where you're at, that it's going to be hard for the school to get you a work visa.
Sure.
So yeah, in your case, 55, I mean, great. Like, come over. Can you come over to my school? So, for sure. When you hit 60, I'm like, still there's a possibility, but it's, but yes, if you 62, it's going to be tough. Yeah.
Be tough. Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
real. Yeah. And I know
Yeah.
some countries are very, like you said, very strict on that, and some you can
Mhm.
work until you're 70. So,
Yeah. So you might, I don't know, like you've been to Thailand. I think maybe Thailand is a little bit easier.
oh, is it?
So
Okay.
yeah, you can definitely find places that don't have that strict rule. So don't, if you are 55, 60, even 62, 63, don't look around. There's a lot of international recruitment agencies. I'm not sure how you got to the Middle East, if you
Away.
found that through
Teach away.
Teachaway. Yeah. So Teachaway, Teacher, all these Teach Anywhere. There's
Yeah.
a place called Search Associates.
Search
There's
associates.
ISS. There's a
PIE
lot of
online. Yeah, there's
all of
some.
these
Yeah,
places. So
yeah.
you don't have to work with all of them, but you'll find one or two. There's one I've worked recently with TIS.
Yeah, at Vectors. Yeah.
Some of them will charge you the fee, and some of them will charge you and the school that hires you the fee. So
Oh, okay.
I honestly prefer not paying any fees, but there are like Search, I think charged me 1 year like $400 maybe
Oh,
to
did it?
join them. Another place $70. So if you use these, if you go through some kind of agency, they'll definitely be able to guide you and point you in the right direction. It'll save you a lot of time, like researching, especially if you're finding a place where they'll accept you and give you a visa at
Yeah.
age 62 or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about Search, for example. I know they do charge a fee, but I have a really good friend of mine he's now a principal in London, and he was in
Mm-hmm.
London before then and literally signed up through Search, applied for one job, got that
Mm-hmm.
interview, and ended up getting the job. Like, it was that quick.
Mm-hmm.
It was like boom. So yeah, I mean, they were really efficient and professional, and
Yeah.
he couldn't say enough great things about them. And I'm sure they're not the only one, but I know that's something
Mm-hmm.
that uh,
Mm-hmm.
there's another one I think called Scroll ISS.
Scroll, yeah,
Yeah.
Scroll. ISS Scroll. I think ISS and Scroll have now
Oh,
parted
they're
ways.
separated. Oh, okay.
So they were separated actually before, and then they joined, merged, and then now they've kind of broken off again. So yeah, you can go through ISS or Scroll now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, on my website, I actually have a whole list of these places that people can check out.
Okay. Maybe we'll put that in the show notes. We'll put a link to that because, again, like I said, I know that a lot of what we're talking about, people are like, this is brand new to them. Like, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
what? Really? That true? Like, I mean, and so, yeah, we definitely want to put all this information in the show notes. But, you've been doing this for 10 years, at least abroad. If you had to do it all over again, Dr. Russell, would you do the same thing? Would you follow the same path?
Oh, 150%. Yeah, for sure. Like I had a good time in Texas. I worked in a charter school there, public
Okay.
charter, and it was great. I mean, we had, kind of similar expectations for students as we have here and like rigorous education, but it was very much more stressful, like in
Yeah.
terms of, kind of breaking even each month and,
Yeah.
saving a little bit, but, and then one thing that I definitely don't miss is all the standardized testing. I was the district testing coordinator there for the district. And I remember being with kids till midnight because at that point, there was no time limit on the tests, so
Oh, wow.
they could take all day. So we fed them dinner and I remember some high schoolers one time stayed till like 11:59. We said, okay, it's done, guys. We've got to wrap it up. So I don't miss any of that.
Yeah.
We do test in here, but it's not to the extent that I think the US kind of does it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all the best to you, man.
Yeah.
I am really grateful that you came on the show. And I just know that There's so much greatness ahead of you. I want to keep in touch with you if that's
For
okay.
sure. Yeah, for sure. That's definitely.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
want to follow your journey. Like it's super cool to just kind of hear and kind of live vicariously through someone that has gone a similar path that I've gone. So I definitely appreciate you personally for coming on the show.
Yeah.
But before you leave, can you just kind of leave our viewers and listeners some parting words of wisdom? Tell us how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. My motto that I like to use is be courageous, cultivate connection. And so be courageous. Like you as an educator, you might be in like a tough environment. Be brave, still take risks. Don't back down.
Sure.
So be courageous. And then cultivate connection with your colleagues, with your administrators. Invite your administrators into your classroom to read a book. I mean, even in high school, I think you can probably do this.
Oh, yeah.
Just cultivate that connection with your students, build those good relationships, and then love mercy. And so that's our motto at the school. So the love mercy is have compassion, right? Like,
sure.
And assume the best in people. Don't, positive intent. Don't go into any conversation with negative kind of thing. So have compassion. Everybody's facing something.
I love that. Be courageous, have compassion, cultivate connection. Thank you.
And that's, it's not, I think that's inspired by Brene Brown. So
okay,
I better give her some credit. So
yeah, 100%. A fellow Texan. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been nice talking to you. Bring some of your students over here. Like maybe you and another teacher bring over a little group of kids, and we'll host you and put you up, and then you can go from Shanghai, go take the kids to the Great Wall or something. So
that would be super cool. So all we need to do is get there.
Yeah, get there, and then we can do like homestay with some of our families.
Okay.
But there's so many schools around China. We can probably talk more about making connections around China. Yeah, so
that would be so cool, man. I would love it.
Yeah. Oh, and your kids would never forget it.
Absolutely, 100%. It would be literally imprint on their lives. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. How can we connect with you?
I think the best place is probably LinkedIn. I like to be active there. So yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Dr. Wayne Russell, for coming.
All right, Dr. Williams.
I am super grateful for you coming on the show, just so open with what's going on in your life, your K-12 career, your family, finances, all of that. It's 100% been a pleasure for me to talk with you, and I know that the people that are watching both of us are getting some value out of this. So thanks again for coming on the show, and we definitely wish you all the best.
All right, see you.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you.